There are great seasons, and then there's 2007 Randy Moss. He was 30 years old, labeled as washed, and traded for just a fourth-round pick. But the second he landed in New England, the league had no idea what was coming. He was double-teamed more than any receiver in football. Entire secondaries revolved around stopping him, and it didn't matter. Because in 2007, Randy Moss didn't just break records, he broke the NFL. For years in Minnesota, Moss was the most dangerous deep threat in football. He racked up 90 touchdowns in just 7 seasons. But in 2005, it all changed, because the Vikings traded Moss to the Oakland Raiders. And it was supposed to be a fresh start, but instead, it was a disaster. In 2006, he posted just 553 yards, the lowest of his career, with just 3 touchdowns. And the Raiders went 2-14. In 2 years with Oakland, he had just 11 touchdowns. He looked bored, frustrated, and totally out of sync. The narrative became that the formerly uber-athletic receiver had lost a step and that he'd likely never be the same again. I mean, he was 30 years old, and most receivers don't even make it that far. But what nobody knew at the time was that Randy Moss was far from finished, not even close. And behind the scenes, something was brewing. Because in 2007, one of the smartest coaches in the NFL was ready to take a chance. While the rest of the league saw an aging, unhappy receiver, Belichick saw an opportunity, and all it cost him was a fourth-round pick.
The Patriots and Raiders making it official, Oakland sending disgruntled yet talented wide receiver Randy Moss to New England for a fourth-round draft pick.
When Randy Moss showed up in New England, the decision was met with a ton of questions. Would he actually buy into the Patriot way? Would he mesh with Brady's leadership? And most importantly, would it even work? Moss was the very definition of a big personality, flashy, raw, and untamed. And New England, on the other hand, was the definition of buttoned up. But the moment Moss and Brady hit the practice field together, all those doubts vanished. Brady had spent the early 2000s slicing defenses with efficiency, short outs, checkdowns, timing throws over the middle. But he never had this. He never had someone like Moss. Suddenly, Brady was launching bombs downfield, and he and Moss became nearly inseparable. They stayed after practice to go over routes. They studied film together. They obsessed over timing, spacing, and leverage. The coaching staff noticed, and they started retooling the offense around this new connection. They started installing spread formations, 4 wide looks, and route combinations built to isolate Moss on one side, daring defenses to leave him one-on-one. Wes Welker underneath, Dante Stallworth on the other side, Kevin Falk in space, and Moss on the outside. Randy Moss had shown up in New England with one goal: to remind the world who he was. And when Week 1 arrived, he was about to do just that.
It is kickoff Sunday, and the Jets about to host the Patriots.
September 9th, 2007. Most fans were focused on Tom Brady, or maybe the Patriots' new-look defense. But Randy Moss? Some people weren't even sure he was going to play. He'd missed almost the entire preseason with a hamstring injury. Reporters were asking if he was out of shape. Analysts openly questioned whether he could still run. But then the game began. First quarter, Brady takes a snap, scans the field, and there he is. Randy Moss streaking down the right sideline like a shadow being pulled by the moon. Brady steps up, lets it rip, and Moss never breaks stride. He just glides under it for a 51-yard gain. And that was just the beginning. Drive after drive, Moss continued to torch the Jets secondary. By the time the game was over, Moss had 9 catches, 183 yards, and a touchdown in his debut. That was the most receiving yards ever by a player in his Patriots debut. Coaches around the league watched the film and still told themselves, he can't do that every week. Spoiler alert, he could. At 30 years old, after being labeled a diva, a quitter, and washed, he dropped nearly 200 yards on opening day. And that was just the warm-up, because this wasn't just a comeback, it was a full-blown takeover. Week 2, the Patriots faced the San Diego Chargers, one of the best defenses in football at the time. They had speed, power, and all-pros across the board, but it didn't matter. Brady launched it deep down the sideline, Moss hauled it in stride, touchdown. A few drives later, same thing. Despite 2 defenders in the area, there was still no chance. Moss finished the game with 2 touchdowns, 105 yards, and a clear message: he's not slowing down. Next week against the Bills, 2 more touchdowns, then another 2 the game after that. At this point, it didn't even look fair. Moss made it look like backyard football, like he was playing against people who weren't even in his league. And honestly, he was. And everyone watching it knew the same thing. He was the most unstoppable force in football. There's only one Randy Moss that will ever play this game, Brady said. He's the greatest, probably downfield receiver in the history of the NFL. Then came Week 6, the undefeated showdown. 5-0 Patriots versus 5-0 Cowboys. Two juggernauts. And the Cowboys thought they had the secondary to slow them down. They thought disguising coverages and throwing double teams would rattle them. They were wrong. Moss found the end zone again. The Patriots put up 48 points and walked out of Dallas with a 21-point win. This was not the same Patriots team that had won Super Bowls with checkdowns and precision. This team was different. They were explosive. They were angry. And they had Randy freaking Moss. Then came Week 11 versus the Bills. The game Moss turned into a supervillain. The Bills rotated coverages. They mixed press, off-man, too high shells. Didn't matter. First touchdown, go route. Quick pass, touchdown number 2. One-on-one for another touchdown. And then a signature mossing by Randy himself for the 4th touchdown. By halftime, Moss had shredded the Bills for 4 touchdowns. New England went on to win 56-10, and Moss didn't even need to do anything in the second half. Now it was clear the league had no idea how to stop him. By Week 12, Randy already had 16 touchdowns. That kind of number would be an incredible season for anyone. But Moss wasn't done, not even close, because one number started looming over every catch, every route, every deep ball: 22. The legendary single-season touchdown record set by Jerry Rice in 1987, a mark that stood untouched for 2 decades. The closer Moss got, the louder the buzz grew. Game after game, defenses knew what was coming. They knew it, and still, they couldn't stop it. You would think it couldn't be that hard to stop one man. But not when that guy's Randy Moss. Moss faced double coverage on over 60% of his routes from weeks 9 through 16, yet still averaged 18.6 yards per catch during that stretch. Because the truth was, Moss was always open. No one could outrun or outjump him. You couldn't press him, he'd blow by you. You couldn't sit back. He'd eat up the cushion in 2 strides. And you couldn't play physical, because his catch radius was ridiculous. Moss was one of only 3 receivers in NFL history at the time to post 1,400-plus receiving yards, 20-plus yards per reception in multiple games, and 20-plus touchdowns in a single season. And he did it all while facing the highest rate of double coverage in the NFL that year. On passes thrown 20-plus yards downfield, Moss had 746 yards and 11 touchdowns. That's nearly half of his season's touchdowns, just on deep balls alone. Even with all that defensive attention, Moss caught at least 1 touchdown in 13 of 16 regular season games. And heading into the final week of the season, he was inches, or should I say 2 touchdowns away from greatness.
It is the kickoff to the final week of the National Football League season, but of course, it is so much more than that. Only 4 quarters remain between the Patriots and football immortality, with one giant obstacle in their way.
Week 17, Giants versus Patriots. Randy Moss entered the game with 21 touchdowns, one short of the legendary Jerry Rice for the most in a single NFL season. But this game wasn't just about Moss. The Patriots entered the night 15-0, one win away from the NFL's first ever 16-0 regular season. And Tom Brady had 48 touchdown passes, just one shy of breaking Peyton Manning's single-season record. But despite already being locked into their playoff seed, the Giants came ready to play, and they came out swinging. It was a physical game. Then, on the first play of the second quarter, Brady completed a 4-yard touchdown pass to Moss, giving the Patriots a 10-7 lead. The play broke one record and tied 2 others. The Patriots' 560th point of the season, surpassing the 1998 Minnesota Vikings record of 556 points. The touchdown pass was Brady's 49th, tying Peyton Manning's 2004 record, and Moss recorded his 22nd touchdown catch of the season, tying Jerry Rice's 1987 record. Moss celebrated with teammate Ben Watson dancing in the end zone. He was so hyped, he even got flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct. But it didn't matter, because that touchdown officially cemented him as a legend. And yet, it still wasn't enough. Tying the record wasn't what Moss came to do. He came to break it. In the fourth quarter, the Patriots were clinging to a 31-28 lead. So, as they did all season long, Brady stepped back, saw Moss get a step in the corner, and fired. A perfect rainbow 65 yards in the air. Moss caught it in stride, touchdown. Just like that, 2 of the NFL's greatest records fell on the same play. Moss, 23 receiving touchdowns, the most ever in a single season. And Brady, 50 passing touchdowns, a new NFL record at the time. And more than just numbers. That touchdown sealed the final score. Patriots 38, Giants 35. New England had done it. 16-0, the first perfect regular season in NFL history. The Patriots finished the season with an average margin of victory of almost 20 points and an offense that scored an NFL best best 36.8 points per game and defeated its first 8 opponents by a combined 204 points. The next stop, the playoffs, and for Moss, a chance at the one thing still missing from his legendary resume, a ring. After crushing records and opponents for 17 straight weeks, the Patriots rolled into the playoffs like a wrecking ball. They took down the Jags in the divisional round, then outlasted a tough Chargers squad in the AFC Championship. Neither team stood a chance once Brady and Moss got going. And just like that, New England was 18-0. One win away from perfection. One game away from doing what no team had ever done before, 19-0. And for Randy Moss, it meant something even bigger. After years of being doubted, after being called selfish, washed, locker room cancer, after 2 forgettable years in Oakland, he was on the biggest stage in football, 60 minutes away from silencing everyone. The final step of his revenge tour, Super Bowl 42 against the New York Giants. On paper, this looked like a complete mismatch. The Patriots had already beaten the Giants in Week 17, they had the league MVP in Tom Brady, and they had Moss, fresh off his 23-touchdown season. In fact, they were 12.5-point favorites. But from the opening snap, New York played like the underdog no one wanted to face. Their defensive line, led by Michael Strahan, Justin Tuck, and Osi Umenyiora, crashed the pocket with constant pressure. Brady, who had been barely touched all season, was suddenly under siege. The Patriots' offense, which once moved with ease, looked uncomfortable. It was a low-scoring, ugly, grinded-out kind of game. But late in the fourth quarter, the Patriots did what they'd done all year. They struck. With just under 3 minutes left, Brady dropped back and hit Moss on a beautiful strike in the end zone to put the Patriots ahead 14-10.
Brady throws, Moss, touchdown!
And just like that, New England was back in control. All they had to do was hang on. But then, Eli Manning happened. 3rd and 5, the play that still haunts Patriots fans. Manning escapes what should have been a sack, spins, ducks, runs, and then launches a prayer downfield. A prayer that would become one of the greatest plays in NFL history, the helmet catch. Moments later, Eli finds Plaxico Burress in the end zone. Touchdown. Giants win, 17-14.
And that is it. The New York Giants have knocked off the New England Patriots 17-14, and the Giants, with the most improbable win in recent memory, have won Super Bowl 42.
And just like that, Randy Moss's best shot at a ring was ripped away. But that doesn't take away from how great of a season he had. Randy Moss was not supposed to do this. Not in his 10th NFL season, not after flopping in Oakland, not after being labeled washed. But what he did wasn't just great, it was a statement. A statement to every GM who passed on him, to every analyst who said he didn't have it anymore, to every defender who thought they had him figured out. 23 receiving touchdowns, an NFL record that still stands. Nearly 1,500 yards, and you can't help but ask, how? It's easy to say he dominated because of his freakish athleticism or the fact that he played with the best quarterback of all time, but that's only half the story. Because what made Moss unstoppable was his mind. Belichick even said, "He's the smartest receiver I've ever been around." And that's saying something. In New England, Moss wasn't just asked to run go routes and catch deep balls. He was asked to operate inside a complex, ever-changing offense with moving parts, motion, shifting formations, and adjustable routes on nearly every play. Before the snap, Moss would read the defense. Then after, he'd adjust on the fly based on where the defenders went.
Brady, a fake spike, throws to the end zone, touchdown, Randy Moss.
If the corner played outside, he'd break in. If the safety stayed flat-footed, he'd take the top off. But for it to work, Moss had to see the same thing at the exact same time as Tom Brady. And he did, over and over again. That kind of trust, that kind of telepathy between a QB and a wide receiver is rare. Belichick described Moss's and Brady's field awareness as that 6th, 7th sense. Even though Moss wasn't supposed to be this good anymore, he never cared about what he was supposed to be. He just reminded us all of what he really was, a freak, a legend, a once-in-a-generation force. And in 2007, he broke the NFL. If you enjoyed this video, stick with Blitz. Subscribe and check out some of our other content right here.